Hello there everybody, Trek Cultures, Adam Cleary here, just to hold my hands up really quickly and say, I've tried my best to replicate, duplicate, just outright clone our god editor Chris Thompson here, and I have failed. It's been absolutely disastrous. An affront to God, somebody called one of the efforts, so do you know what? I give up. We're just going to have to hire a new video editor here at Trek Culture. And if you've been sitting at home watching this glorious channel thinking, I could do that, well, then prove it. Sunshine, there is an email address on screen right now. If you're interested in becoming part of the team, we want to see your show reels, we want to see your CVs, we want to hear what you can bring to this channel. And if you're good enough and we like you, maybe we'll get in touch and you too could be editing out the numerous mistakes I make in every single video. So yes, email address on screen now, CV, showreels, etc. Join us here on Trek Culture to boldly, I don't know, fix it in the edit. Goodbye. Hello there everybody, Trek Cultures, Adam Cleary here, and it is now time, finally, for undoubtedly the second most requested video in the entire history of this channel. We have done the original Enterprise, we've done the Enterprise D, we have done Voyager, we have been through all three of these ships and examined what precious, amazing little secrets they all hold, and now it is time for Deep Space Nine. The first most requested video, in case you're wondering, is the one where I announce I'm doing some kind of OnlyFans, but you're not getting that anytime soon, you dirty pigs. So yes, here we are then, the largest spacefaring vessel to be the permanent home of a Star Trek series, the only non-Federation location to be the permanent home of a Star Trek series, 7 whole seasons of Deep Space Nine, including the adventures of the emissary of the Prophet, the war between the Federation and pretty much everybody, and loads of tiny little stories about Starfleet, the Bajorans, and the many civilians who inhabited this station. And yes, as you might suspect, there were loads of things they wanted to do on the show. There were loads of things they couldn't do on the show, and of course they did release a technical manual, so we have poured through the data to find you 10 amazing secrets about Deep Space Nine you didn't know. Which I've ruined the intro by saying it at that point, because now I'm Adam Cleary. This is the video. Number 10, Deep Space Nine's first appearance. Now, if I was to say to you, when do you think the first ever televised appearance of Deep Space Nine was on screen, you would go, doy, that's Season 1, Episode 1, The Emissary, that was the first episode of Deep Space Nine, so that was the first time we saw Deep Space Nine, and to that I would say, you're wrong. The Season 6 Next Generation two-parter, Chain of Command, was supposed to see Picard, Worf, and Beverly go to Deep Space Nine, interact with a number of their characters before setting off on their mission into Cardassian space, where, you know, it all goes wrong and they get captured, and there are 4 lights! Best impression I could do that. However, a small problem arose when Deep Space Nine's initial broadcast date got pushed quite far back, meaning that by the time Chain of Command went to air, Deep Space Nine wouldn't be a thing yet, and they didn't want to introduce all these new characters in this new setting in another show, and that would be a bit weird, but the problem was they'd already built the sets. Now, as I'm sure you are aware, our intrepid crew head to Tormund Ver to go talk to a very seedy Ferengi in an even seedier bar, and yes, you are already there ahead of me. That was supposed to be Quark's bar, and that was supposed to be Quark. And while they did redress the sets, they didn't really redress them all that much, so where this meeting with Damien Solok takes place is actually Deep Space Nine's Repromat set. So, yes, there you go, the first time you see Deep Space Nine is not in Deep Space Nine, nor is it presented as Deep Space Nine, but still it is Deep Space Nine. Number 9, CGI. Never said to you how many times you think you saw a CGI representation of Deep Space Nine on screen. You would go, probably loads. They actually used loads of CGI in the making of that show, and I would say to you again, no. They built one giant big model of Deep Space Nine, and they used that for every single shot of the space station from any angle, in any setting. They used that model every single time Deep Space Nine was shown on screen, except for one shot. the last shot. Yeah, loads of the space battles, they were CGI. Loads of the other stuff, that was CGI. Obviously, the weapons and stuff, that was CGI. But every single shot of Deep Space Nine was a physical model, except for the last shot in What You Leave Behind, when Kira and Jake are looking out the window, and we get that slow zoom out of the station to find it just hanging there in space. That was the only time they used a CGI model of the station. Basically, they built a CGI model of it quite early on, assuming they would have to use it at some point, and then just never actually did. So we just sat there on somebody's hard drive for the whole time until at the end they went, you know what? Well, we can't really do the model camera pull thing. That'll look really janky. So yeah, go on then, give us the digital version. Number 8, the Federation upgrades. Now, my favourite Deep Space Nine episode, as I've told you a million times, like 3 actually on here, is The Way of the Warrior, because, well, it's got the best space battle ever seen in Star Trek, in my honest opinion. It's a great storyline, Worf's in it, Sisko is at his badass best. There's a load of reasons to like it, but it also includes that moment where all those torpedo turrets and all those phaser pylons just deploy from the station, and little childhood me went, oh. And while this was obviously a big popper, it was also part of a long-running storyline that started in Season 1, where the Federation and Bajoran crews were wrestling with the Cardassian technology, trying to strip some of it out and trying to make other parts of it work. Now, while it's never specifically mentioned on screen, loads of other systems were brought up to Federation standard over the course of the show. Loads of the computing stuff was changed with isolinear chips. The power systems were completely changed for Federation stuff. Even the docking systems were changed without it really being mentioned, although it is slightly visible after a certain season. But the most visual change regards the computer terminals. When they first move in, it's all that nice green, purpley Cardassian stuff, but by the time the show enters its 6, 7, and 8 seasons, most of the new terminals, especially in the wardroom and the medical bay, are now all Federation issue. They didn't talk about it, but they spent that entire show redoing that station. Do you know what? Speaking as a man who was bought, assembled, and painted an entire Warhammer 40k army, Adeptus Sororitas, in case you are wondering, during lockdown, it's just nice to have a project, isn't it? Number 7, the Unseen Promenade. Now, the Promenade was a big ring in the middle of the station. They told you that a million times, but you, yes you, only ever saw 1/3 of that ring. Alright, it wasn't quite a third. Basically, they built a set that was 1/3 of a ring, so you could never quite see where it began and ended, and they put permanent fixtures in there, like the Temple, Quark's Bar, things like that. And yes, they did create ad hoc sets every now and then, like the Klingon restaurant and Garrick's Tailors. They were built and they were in other parts of the Promenade, but by and large, 2/3 of that were never on screen. What else was on the Promenade, Adam, I hear you ask? That's the only reason I've clicked this video, so you can give me this information. Well, okay, wow, jeez, calm that one down a little bit. There was also a Bajoran greengrocers, because of course, you'd have Bajoran greengrocers. There was an EVA suit shop, so you could get like measured for your out in space apparel and then buy it there. That was called Belfloria's, and also a shop called Yo-Yo-Dine Propulsions for some reason. Apparently that last one is a reference to the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension, and apparently there are loads of backstage references to that in the show. That's all I've got. Number 6, the Promenade in real life. Now, if the first 2 Star Trek series, the original series and The Next Generation, were supposed to be Gene Roddenberry's like wagon train to the stars, then that makes Deep Space Nine the Rifleman. Don't sit there and be like, I don't know what any of this means. They're really old Western shows. 2 were about exploration, exploring the Wild West, but The Rifleman was about a frontier town. That's a great reference. And Deep Space Nine is a frontier town when you think about it. It's at the very forefront of exploration. It's in unknown territory. And look at the Promenade is its main street. You've got a sheriff's office, you've got a saloon, you've got a jail, you've got a schoolhouse, you've got a church, you've got a brothel. Holosuites are obviously holosuites are a brothel, because as we've discussed before, if Holodeck were real, and as I've just mentioned before, with 120 degrees of this 360 degree set actually ever being made, it actually was all really made in real life. They made a 120 degree round strip with all these sets being semi-permanent. Like, if you walked into the real life Promenade in Deep Space Nine, it would feel like you were actually on a promenade, not just loads of disconnected TV sets. It actually wasn't even finished in Season 1 because they were just, seeing if they were going to get renewed for more seasons. And when they were, they spent a bit more money and put that second level in where Quarks has his nice little a la carte outdoor vista, whatever it's called, seating area outside. Number 5, there was almost a monorail. Yeah, unlike a lot of Star Trek series, the original pictures for Deep Space Nine actually got fairly close to what the finished product was going to be. Yes, of course, cetacean ops, yes, of course, the giant computer cores in the Next Generation, yada yada, we all know that, but when they actually drew Deep Space Nine, they got it pretty much spot on, except for there was supposed to be a monorail. Yeah, the very, very, very original pitch for the Promenade was supposed to be far more grungy, far more Blade Runner-y, far more messy, far more going on than just like a nice simple walkway with a few adjacent shops. This early image by Ricardo Delgado is glorious. I'd actually like to see that as a TV show at some point, but if you look carefully in the middle, zoom and enhance please, Chris, that is a monorail. Now, while I do hear those things are awfully loud, you would suppose in the 24th century they would glide as softly as a cloud. But either way, the decision was made to just put actual turbo lifts in instead because, well, it's Star Trek and also money, because monorails are expensive. And while I'm on the subject of turbo lifts, you've seen how in Ops they go on, it goes Promenade or Defiant or something, and it actually lowers down. Those are the only actual functioning lifts in any Star Trek series, because all the other ones, the doors close and that's it, they don't move. They built actual moving lifts in Deep Space Nine, only show that ever got them. Number 4, Alien Tower of Babel. In fact, actually one of the original early designs was that yes, this was going to be a former Cardassian station in the sense that they had been occupying it, but that they had not built it. It was going to be this alien Tower of Babel with all these different cultural and technological wings to it that have been added by different species over thousands of years. The idea behind this being they could make it look whichever way they wanted, and they could do so many different things with it over the course of the series. If they wanted to focus on one thing, they could go in this part of the station. Want to focus on another, they could go in that part of the station, and there would be no shortage of the adventures they could have just discovering new parts of the station and discovering these alien civilizations that had built them. But then they thought, nah, let's not do that. Let's make it an all-refinery plant. And from there, they went to a design for Deep Space Nine, which is pretty close to how it actually ended up looking, except that all the pylons were actually connected, so there's all interlocking circles and stuff. They had a look at that and thought, nah, let's cut them off so we can put some ships at the various points. And pretty much from there, that's the design we got. Something this production claims looks like a cross between an atom, a Mercedes logo, and a gyroscope. I can see that. Number 3, the largest refinery in space. Small bit of trivia this, which they never really went on about on the show, but the fact that Terok Nor, as it used to be known, used to process 20,000 tons of ore a day, thanks to its slave Bajoran workforce, which again, they got over really quickly on that show, I hasten to add. Anyway, that was the largest refinery in space ever. Like, not the biggest space station, Earth space dock absolutely dwarfs Deep Space Nine in terms of actual size, but nowhere on Earth was working harder than those Bajoran slaves and those Cardassian masters. Really puts a skip at your step, doesn't it? In fact, actually, the handful of times on the show in either flashbacks or parallel universes where we do see Deep Space Nine working as an ore processing refinery, whatever it was planned, so much of that station after the Federation took it over was never actually fully converted. There was still causeways and pipes and chutes and tunnels and all sorts that were designed to move the ore around the station. Starfleet just couldn't really do anything with them. They put people in the habitable areas and they fixed all the stuff they could, but it was still at heart like a big ore thing. I actually always thought it was quite weird in Deep Space Nine how Starfleet just moved in and went, aha, here we are, the most abundant place to get uridium in the galaxy. Well, we'll not be doing any of that. Number 2, there's an ATM on the Promenade. Money doesn't exist in the 24th century, unless of course you're on Deep Space Nine, and unless of course you're within spitting distance of any Ferengi bar. And the thing is, there have been rumours for so long that there was an ATM on Deep Space Nine. That's where everybody kept getting all of their Latinum from, but they never talked about it, they never showed it, they never made it a feature of the show, which you'd think would make sense, because I was always like, do these Starfleet people who do not get paid, they just have like a little stash of Latinum somewhere? I never got that. But yes, according to Armin Shimmerman, Quark himself, there was literally a Ferengi ATM opposite Quark's that just never made it onto screen. They never filmed anything anywhere near it. They never talked about it. They never went to it. But it was there. He loved it. He assumed they were going to do loads of things with it. He thought it was the most impressive prop they had on the show. He wanted to take it with him after the show ended and just... You've never heard of it. You've never seen it. There it is. That's the first time I've ever seen that. One interesting thing about it is if you look close enough, you can see several logos on there. There is a Federation logo, fair enough. There's a Klingon logo, fair enough. Bajoran logo, fair enough. Vulcan logo, fair enough. Ferengi logo, duh, obviously, fair enough. And the logo of the man from U.N.C.L.E. Number 1, Deep Space Nine's future. Alright, so we don't know in canon what happened to Deep Space Nine after What You Leave Behind. It was never brought up in the last episodes of Voyager. It was never mentioned in Picard. It's not come up in Lower Deck so far. It was never in any of the movies. We just left it at the last episode of the show, and we don't know officially what's happened to it since. Now, in a series of non-canon books, Ro Lauren gets to become a captain in Starfleet. She is given command of the thing. It is destroyed and then rebuilt as a traditional Starfleet space dock. But that's none of that's ever been canon. Nobody associated with any of the shows has ever said that's true. However, in a 2019 documentary, almost the show's entire writing staff have said that how they envisaged the station carrying on after Sisko left in some mythical Season 8, were it ever to be made, was that it became a shrine for the emissary. Kira was still in command of it. Now she was, of course, Vedic Kira. She was in charge of the station, but now Bajorans would make a pilgrimage from the surface up to Deep Space Nine to pay tribute to Sisko, for whom there were loads of statues holding orbs all over the place, and then to watch the wormhole from the Promenade. It basically became a religious institution based around Ben Sisko, and you know what? Fair enough. And if you would like to hear all the reasons why that is absolutely fair enough, then lucky for you, some handsome man's gone and done 10 reasons why Benjamin Sisko is the greatest captain in Star Trek history, and that's now available for your viewing pleasure right here on Trek Culture. Plug, 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 plug. So there you have it. Those are 10 secrets of Deep Space Nine that you need to know. And we know you need to know because you kept asking us to do the video, so you're welcome on that front as well. Let us know what you made of it, as well as any you know that we apparently don't, in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I have, of course, been Adam Cleary, away to see if there was enough mileage to do an Enterprise E version of this. And I'll see you soon. Mwah!